All right. Well, welcome everybody. Um, you are here today for the session called Renewing Your CCAP, What You Need to Know. So, assuming that most of you are in a place where you will be renewing your CCAP this year. So, as you all know, I'm Leah Paletti. I'm the project director of credentialing and assessment at the National Community Action Partnership. I am happy to spend the next hour or so with you to answer your questions about the renewal process. Today's webinar, I will be recording it and I will make it available to you. I'll send it in email um, within 2 weeks, but more than likely early next week. As we do with all of our webinars and our meetings, we're going to start with reciting the promise of community action. And we do this to help keep us grounded in the work that we do. So you can feel free to unmute if you would like, um, or not. It's fine. I will read it. Community action changes people's lives, embodies a spirit of hope, improves communities, and makes America a better place to live. We care about the entire community, and we are dedicated to helping people help themselves and each other. All right, so we're going to dive into today's training. So we have a very technical agenda today. We're going to cover the big stuff first, like the continued learning requirements and the CCAP program engagement requirement. And then we will go over some less big stuff like the application format, the renewal time frame, application dates, and then any fees that are associated with renewal. I will end the presentation with a question and answer session, but I just want to encourage you, if you have questions as they come up, you can unmute yourself or you can drop them in the chat either way, and I can answer them as we go, but just know that there will be some dedicated time at the end of this for questions. Okay, so about 3 years ago, the CCAP Commission updated the renewal requirements for CCAPs, and they added two components to your renewal that you have not had to do before. So this is new for you. The first of which, you will need to have some sort of program engagement or support of the CCAP program. And then secondly, you will be required to show some continued learning professional development hours. So let's dive into what those requirements mean. So first, we are going to talk about continued learning hours. And I bet you're asking yourself right now, how much continued learning do I need to have in order to renew my CCAP? And that's a great question. So think of each area of the body of knowledge as a bucket. Okay. You'll note that the buckets on the screen, history, section A, and section B, vision and values, they've been combined into one bucket. But then you have a bucket for management, a bucket for leadership, and a bucket for theories of poverty. So if you're renewing your certification in 2026, you will need to complete a total of 18 hours of continued learning since the last time you received your CCAP or you last renewed your CCAP. Okay. You need to show that you have had at least 1 hour of continued learning in each one of those buckets, but a total of 18 hours. Okay, continued learning, it really can be anything that you did to learn since the last time you earned or last renewed your CCAP. So if you attended conferences, webinars, trainings, really anything. And if you can apply any of that training to any of those four buckets, you can count it as continued learning. Okay, so I want to talk a little bit about what that might look like for you. So you either earned your CCAP in 2021 or you last renewed your CCAP in 2021. Remember that your renewal happens every 4 years. That first year, which was 2022, you may have completed 4 1 hour long training webinars totaling 4 hours of continued learning, and you put 1 hour in each one of those buckets. Okay. Maybe the second year in 2023, you had an additional 2 hours of continued learning. Third year, maybe you had another 3 hours. Fourth year, you may have had another 3 hours. But essentially, you will need to have 18 total hours in that time frame. So it's not per year, it's total in that 4 years. So essentially, what that breaks down to is about, if we do the math, 18 divided by 4, like 4.5 hours per year of continued learning. Okay. Because this is a newer process, it's been gradually implemented each year until 2027, where the continued hours, if you're renewing in 2027, you will have to show 24 hours per renewal period, and that's that every 4 years. Okay. So again, 18 total hours with at least 1 hour in each of those body of knowledge buckets. So for anyone renewing in 2027, like I said, you'll be required to do that 24 hours, but if you're doing it in 2024, it's 18 hours, okay? If you go to a couple of conferences a year or you attend some NCAP webinars or your state association conference, um, you've got that covered probably in 1 year. So um, you should not have an issue getting to that 18 hours of continued learning. So, the great thing about the continued learning is that you get to decide which trainings to use and which categories, those buckets that they belong to. So, no one's going to be telling you that a training doesn't align with a specific section of the body of knowledge. And also, it's not necessary to email NCAP asking where to put training or where it would align. Put your trainings where you feel that they align in the body of knowledge. Okay, so just to reiterate, it's a graduated schedule for hours of continued learning that's required of CCAPs to renew their certification. If you're renewing in 2026, you need to have at least 18 hours of continued learning. And if renewing in 2027 and beyond, you'll be required to show 24 hours of continued learning. Okay. And again, one item to note is that continued learning needs to be training that you receive, not training that you're providing. I know maybe many of you may be Roma trainers on this call, and you may be providing training on a regular basis. That doesn't count towards continued learning, okay? If you're attending the Roma training as a participant, then yes, absolutely, you can include that. Are there any questions about the continued learning requirement right now? Rand is asking, if we go to a conference, do we need to enter each session we attended, or can we just enter the conference as a whole? Great question. That is up to you, but if you, let's say you enter the conference as a whole and say it's 12 hours. Okay, we'll just put 12 hours out there. You have to say in the system, and I'll show that later in the presentation, what bucket that aligns with. So it is probably better to do individual sessions unless you just want to have the whole training, the whole conference in one bucket, because there's not a way to break it out. Say, this 24 hours encompassed, or this 12 hours encompassed four of those different body of knowledge sections. Does that make sense? Ed is asking about reading materials count, such as book on leadership. If you're learning, I would say it's continued learning. Again, the CCAP Commission is not going to be policing this. They are not going to say that doesn't count. You are all CCAPs. Use your best judgment. Um, and if a staff person came to you and asked you what you thought continued learning was, and you can say, yes, I feel that that would fit as continued learning, go ahead and use it. That's okay. Gregory, great question. Does it just have to be CAP conferences or any other leadership conferences? If you can align any of the topics in any convention, conference, training, back to the body of knowledge, whether it's about management, leadership, you can absolutely use it. These are not just focused on CAP conferences. Because, right, leadership, learning happens at all levels, and we want that learning to happen at all of those sections of the body of knowledge. So, great questions. Any other questions? All right, I'm going to move forward, but if you have them, just drop them in the chat or feel free to unmute yourself. All right, so let's talk about the other renewal requirement, which is the CCAP program engagement and support. So there are a lot of opportunities to help out with the CCAP program, whether it's locally, regionally, or nationally. Some of those opportunities are on the screen. Recruiting candidates, mentoring candidates, serving on a committee, volunteering at a booth, participating in a survey or a focus group. Um, but the items, the volunteer, the sorry, the program support is not limited to only those items on the screen, okay? If if you're doing anything that helps to promote the program, you can use that. Uh, if you're wondering how do you volunteer for opportunities at NCAP, so I'm going to tell you. So each year in December, early January, I send an email to all CCAPs asking about which volunteer opportunities they're interested in helping with in the upcoming year. Okay. So if you don't fill out that survey, unfortunately, you won't be notified of any volunteer opportunities because I use that list of folks when they tell me they want to sit at the booth at the annual convention. I use um, that survey to reach out to folks to say, hey, I have this opportunity. Are you still interested? Okay. So it's really important that when that survey comes out that you fill it out if you're interested in volunteering. And again, there are other things and other ways that you can support the program without doing something that the partnership needs you to do. Okay. One one other point of clarification is there is no hour requirement to program support, meaning you don't have to do X amount of hours in this area. Okay, program support is all about doing something to support the program. I think a lot of people get confused thinking that they have to volunteer so many hours per year, and that's not the case. You just have to show that you've done something to support the CCAP program. So I'm just reading in the chat about there was a training on history and vision. Can the partnership explore offering those trainings via Zoom for the CCAPs who are unable to attend the conference? Yes, that is something that we can absolutely do. I know that David Bradley often does a history on the community of community action. Also, um, perhaps your state conference, they could provide a session. So it doesn't, like Gregory asked, it doesn't just have to be NCAP providing it. If you can find it elsewhere, you can absolutely use it. But I will make a note of that. And yeah, hopefully we can do that in the future. Good suggestion. Thank you. All right, we'll keep it moving. So just a reminder that while both the program engagement and the continued learning, it is a requirement for the renewal, you'll enter them into the member portal under the honor system. Okay. The CCAP Commission, as I said, they'll not be policing the responses. And that's because you all signed a code of ethics when you enrolled, and when you renew, you will reaffirm the code of ethics during that renewal process. So just only enter what you actually did to support the program and the learning that you actually received in each of those areas of the body of knowledge. Okay, so you might be wondering now, how am I going to remember what continued learning I did 4 years ago? And luckily, I have a solution for you, and I'm going to show you where you can report the continued learning hours as you earn them so you get credit for it when you renew. And you don't have to remember it 4 years later. So you will do this in NCAP's member portal online, and I will walk you through about how to do that a little later in the presentation. But I see there is a chat, a question. Is the program engagement component a free-form text field? Um, I think what you're asking is yes, you can just type in whatever it is that you're doing. Actually, I think it's a drop down. And
There's
if
only
there's an,
one drop down. There's a drop down to select what type of volunteer activity. And it
mhm,
looks like you can select multiple, like I've proctored exams, I've
yeah,
done the scoring of CCAP exams and things like that. So I'm just wondering on the second part of the question, is it just that I write down the date range and what I've done for every year because the requirement is that we've done something on an
no,
annual basis?
no, because this is the application for your renewal period. We'll know that whatever you put in there happened during that renewal period.
Okay.
Okay,
Yep.
good question. There, Ashley's asking if there's a minimum number of engagement activities. No. You can do one, you can do 50. Again, the only requirement is that you do something, and that could be as simple as talking to someone in your agency about CCAP and why they should become a CCAP. Okay. All right. So if we look at our agenda, we have completed the big stuff, just like we said we would. Um, so let's move on to the less big stuff and just keep asking your questions in the chat. That seems to be working pretty well. Great suggestion, Ed. And I will say, as a former CCAP study group leader, the documentary American Idealist about Sarge Shriver is on YouTube. It's 87 minutes. Please go ahead and view that. That has a lot of great history. Marissa's asking, does the Pathways to Excellence involvement count in any way towards continued learning? Marissa, it depends if you did any type of training that you could link back to the body of knowledge, then absolutely. But again, it's training that you've received. So if you can make that case, go ahead and make that case. Okay, so I'm going to jump forward. When you're ready to submit your renewal application, you'll log into NCAP's member portal at the link on the screen. So if you've attended any NCAP webinars, trainings, conferences, um, you registered for this, so you've been on the portal before, that is where you go to do it. I would also encourage you to bookmark this page because it is where you go to register for all of NCAP's events. So if you don't already have the member portal favorited on your internet browser, you can easily find it by going to NCAP's website, and that's www.communityactionpartnership.com. We are a .com, not an org. Once you're there, you can hover over your mouse over the membership area and then click join/renew membership. You're not really joining or doing anything, but that's just where an easy way I can tell you to get to the member portal. You'll click on that highlighted member portal link and you'll be taken to the portal to renew your CCAP. So once you get to the portal, this is what it will look like. Okay. First thing you want to do is logging in. Okay. You'll log in using your email address. If you have any issues logging in, just let me know. I can help you. Sometimes there are issues. Sometimes you don't know passwords. Shoot me an email and I can help. But once you're logged in, you will click on CCAP credential. And you'll see it right on the top. Um, and you just click on that. And that will open another menu where you will click on Renew My Certification. Okay. If you're not already logged into the portal, it will bring you to the login screen where you will log in and then can complete those steps because it will only allow you to renew if you're in that renewal period. Okay. If you go to renew and nothing shows up once you click on renew my certification, it is not your renewal period yet. Okay. So once you click on renew my certification, it will bring you to this page. Okay. When you're here, the important thing is to remember that you're here to renew your certification that you already own. You are not here to apply for certification. Okay. You've already done that. You've gone down that road. Um, so you're going to see that button that says apply for certification. Do not hit that. It is a bad, bad button. Um, and I would love to remove it, but I can't because it's just a system button. Um, so we're just stuck with it, but I'm going to steer you away from clicking on that button. And you are going to click on that little circle next to CCAP. And if it's easy enough to pull a browser up and follow along with me, I am going to walk you through the steps. Okay, so when you click on the CCAP button, you will notice that it turns green, and the word right above it will say renew. Okay, this is a cause for celebration. Once there, then you click on the word renew. And this also tells you, yep, I am in my renewal period, so I am going to complete my renewal application. So once you click on renew, it will take you to another page. Make sure that you click on the button at the way top of the screen to say CCAP renewal, and then you will read all of that information and then you will click on continue. Okay. Again, make sure you're reading that information that's on the screen and for the screens upcoming because there's important information in there. And if you're just clicking, you may miss some of that information. Okay. So while you're in the portal, you'll want to update your contact information. Some important information that is helpful for NCAP to have: personal cell phone number, a personal email address, and any demographic information that you're comfortable adding. Again, you don't have to add any of this. It's just nice to have because at a minimum, it's helpful to have your personal email address. And the reason I ask for that is, while we hope you don't leave your employment, we want to keep you in community action. People leave, right? And once people leave, they may still want to renew their certification after they're gone. But if we don't have a way to contact them, they'll not be able to renew. Okay, so it's important to put a personal email address into the member portal so we're able to contact you. So next on the application is you will verify your Community Action Network employer type. If you don't work at any of the top three employer types on the screen, there are some extra steps involved in your renewal. Uh, we won't talk about them because you're all in the network as of this moment. If you find yourself in that situation, just shoot me an email and I'm happy to walk you through those steps. But the really great thing about the member portal is that it does walk you through those steps. So um, you just click on what type of employer type that you work with. You hit save or continue, I'm not sure the verbiage, and it will take you to the next page. The next page is where you're going to recommit to the code of ethics. Basically, you'll read the code of ethics, you will initial each one, you say you agree, and then you will save once you get through all six of them and move to the next page. So the next item you'll need is a recommendation for your from your executive director or CEO. If you are the ED or the CEO, you'll need a recommendation for your board chair. And this is all done online. And all you need to do is input their name, their email address, and their phone number as you are filling out the application. Once you submit that into the application, your CEO or board chair will receive an email stating that you've asked for them to give a recommendation for you to renew your CCAP. They'll then click on the link that is in that email, and essentially it just walks them through the process until they have submitted it. They will receive a confirmation email once they have finished the process. So they'll get an email, they'll click on the link, fill out the questions, and then submit it. And then they will receive a confirmation email that it was submitted. So here's a pro tip. Let them know to expect this email. Okay. So many times people will get this email and they'll think it's spam or junk and they'll just delete it. Okay. If they have not received that email and you know that you have completed your application, have them check their spam folder. And if they've checked their spam folder and they still don't have it, never fear, just send me an email. I can get them another email. It's not a big issue. But if they don't receive the email to fill out that recommendation, they can't fill out the recommendation, which will hold your application up. So just reach out to me if you have any issues there. So again, the renewal process, it's all done online, which is so great. No more paper applications. And the next thing that we're going to talk about is the continued learning hours and how to enter them into the renewal application. So when you attend a training, a webinar, a conference, you're reading things, you're watching things that you would like to include as part of your continued learning hours, NCAP needs to know the following for these, just so you can prepare on what you need to add. What was the training? So what was the name of it? Was it the MLTC conference? Was it the history of community action? Who presented it? Who sponsored it? Essentially, it's the same thing. Who did you get the training from? When did it happen? And what we're looking for is a date. How long was the training? And that would be in hours. So if you have a 1 hour training, you're going to put a one in the category and not a 60 because it's a 1 hour training. And which category of the body of knowledge did that training align with? And then lastly, which is not on the screen, but it does ask you just for a short, what did you get out of this training? What did you learn? You don't have to write a book. Just let us know maybe some key takeaways. So Gregory's asking about if it was an event, how do we put that in there? You can, if it was an event, and let's say it was a 4 hour event, you can put 4 hours in there as long as it was in the same bucket, because that's kind of what you have to do it per bucket of community of body of knowledge. So if it was 4 hours, you can put 4 hours under history. Um, but if it was a 4 hour event and it covered those four different buckets of the body of knowledge, then you'd have to put 1 hour in each of those buckets. Does that make sense? Okay. So, um, let's see. So sometimes the continued learning can cause people a lot of angst as they can't remember all of the trainings that they attended in the last few months, much less the last 4 years. And I'm guilty. Um, Luckily, we thought of that, and there is an easy way for you to submit those learnings as they're happening rather than having to remember 4 years training that happened 4 years ago. Again, when you're in the member portal and you click on that CCAP credential, just under that, you'll see where it says renew CCAP credential. It also says report ongoing learning credits. You have access to this site 365 days a year, so you can enter your hours anytime you receive them. You can also view ongoing learning credits to see how many you have entered. Okay. So you get back from a training or an event, you put that in there. In 3 months, you don't remember if you entered them. You can go back to the member portal, view ongoing learning credits, and you can see, oh, yes, I did enter them. So I'm going to give you another pro tip. So rather than waiting until your renewal date to enter your continued learning hours, enter the information after you've attended a training or conference. It is going to make your life so much easier. And our system will keep track of all of it for you, and it will stay in the system until you're ready to renew. And if you ever want to check, like I said, you can click on that view ongoing learning credits. Just remember, you need a total of 18 hours of continued learning if you're renewing in 2026. The one bad thing, and maybe it's not a bad thing, I don't know, is the system does not count the total hours. So you have to do a little math to determine if you're actually at that 18 hours or not. So I have a question in the chat. Do the trainings all have to be community action, or can some of them be from other conferences? Yeah, Robin. So I think we covered this earlier. As long as they can align with any section of the body of knowledge, it doesn't matter where the training comes from. Okay. Okay. You're welcome. So let's talk about how to enter the information. So when you click on that report ongoing learning, it will bring you to another page. And this page is going to reference CEU credits. And again, that's a system issue, and I'd love to change it, but I can't. So while you're in the member portal, CEUs just means continued learning. Okay. So you will click on the type. The type is essentially the area of the body of knowledge the learning is going to be aligned to. So those buckets, the history, vision, values, management skills, leadership, and theories and strategies and approaches to eliminate poverty. So there's a drop down there. You'll click that. You'll put what body of knowledge area you want to fill in. Next, you'll enter the date of the training you attended, and you'll enter the quantity of the training, um, which just means how many hours. We talked about this earlier. So a 90-minute training session would be 1.5 hours in the system, and you'll only enter numbers in the quantity of hours. Okay. You'll enter the training or sponsoring organization. So if you attended a webinar from NCAP on the Code of Ethics, you would put that on this line. Again, the CCAP Commission is not policing this. So you just enter what you think is best. Um, the last line asks you briefly to describe how your skills and knowledge were furthered by attending this training. Again, it says briefly, you don't have to write an essay, just a couple of sentences. And you could do, what are your takeaways from that training? So again, renewal happens every 4 years, which means every time your CCAP is up for renewal, you will have to complete this process, which again, every 4 years. All right. So we have gotten through the application format. Now let's talk about the renewal time frame. And this is really important, um, depending on when you want to receive your renewal and your recognition. So renewals, as I said, every 4 years. If you became a CCAP or last renewed your certification um, in 2022, you would add 4 years to that date, which would mean you need to renew before the end of the year 2026 by December 31st. Okay. So you essentially, if your renewal period is now, you have until the end of the year to complete your application. Next, we're going to cover the application dates. So, Mary Rita is asking about if after you complete all of the online components, are you only allowed to review and confirm once the CEO authorization is completed? No. You can go through the whole process, and then once in the system, in the background, it will show as missing requirements. And once your CEO or board chair finishes that part, the status will change. And so you can pay, you can do all the things you need to do, and then your CEO or board chair can then do what they need to do to complete the application. But you can go ahead and process through it. It just won't be certified until the CEO or board chair finishes their part. And I'll keep you posted of when that's happening.
Okay, because each one of the fields, I have them all. Everything's checked off. I love
Yep.
that, like says, "Oh, you completed this." They're all checked off, but the ability to review and confirm is not. It's shaded out that I can't click on it. So,
Okay. Hang tight at the end of this and we can chat.
okay,
Okay. All right. So let's talk about renewal application dates. This is the really important part. So renewals, as you know, they open on March 2nd in the member portal. So it's really important to note these dates for when you want to receive your renewal and your recognition. So if you are planning to be recognized this year at the annual convention in St. Louis, normally at center stage for your renewal, you need to renew by June 30th. And what that means is that all steps are completed and including payment is received by NCAP. Okay. So CCAPs who renew by that June 30th date will have their name in the program book and they'll be recognized at center stage um, as renewing their certification in this year. Let's say you don't plan to attend the annual convention. If that's the case, you can renew any time during the year, but all of those steps, including payment, needs to be received by NCAP by December 31st. Don't be that person that waits until December 31st because we did have those folks who then their certification will lapse because they didn't complete all of the steps. All right. There will be reminders in the e-news. I will send emails saying, hey, you haven't renewed yet. So I apologize in advance for those annoying emails that I'm going to be sending you throughout the year. But just know I want you to renew. Um, and I know how busy we are in community action and things sometimes will fall to the wayside. Um, Clean's asking about which session, if this can be counted. Um, Again, you can decide that and you can decide if it aligns with anything in the body of knowledge. I will say that there are some pathways, and Marissa, this goes back to your question about pathways. They did update the pathways training e-course, and we have aligned the e-course with sections of the body of knowledge. So if you have occasion to take that course, I believe it's a fee for service. Unless your agency is part of Pathways, you can utilize those. Um, Good question about renewing before the convention. Um, so the short answer to that is no, because your renewal period is December 31st. So any trainings that you do in 2026 will count toward your renewal now. So in January, starting January 1st, 2027, that's when you can start to use those trainings toward your next renewal period. Okay. So again, my suggestion is when this webinar concludes, when it's all fresh in your mind, go through and finish your renewal application if you're able to. Um, I'm not going to answer specific questions about your applications. I'll stay on at the end, and if you're going through your application, I can answer those questions now. Um, Kim's asking about renewing after your certification is lapsed. So if your application has lapsed, there are some extra steps. If you essentially what it boils down to is you need to have um, the fee is more. There is more work that you need to do, more letters that you need to get, and then it has to go through the commission for approval. But the process is the same. You still would do that on the member portal. What I will say is you never have to recertify, okay? You renew your certification. The only time you would have to do any part of this process, the CCAP process again, is if you let your certification lapse more than 2 years. Okay. So if you let it lapse more than 2 years, you will have to enroll as a new candidate. Jenny, I'll stick around at the end and we can talk about that. All right, well, we are going to push forward. And the last of the less big stuff is the renewal fee. The renewal fee has not changed for many, many years. It's $250 for CCAPs that are in good standing. So remember, if you don't complete all the steps for renewal by December 31st of this year, January 1st, you will have to pay a fee of $375 and not $250 because you didn't renew during your renewal period. Okay. So I encourage you to start your application process sooner rather than later, just to get it done and out of the way. So, one final note I'll add is you'll be able to see the progress, and this is something Mary Rita was talking about. So, um, You'll be able to see the process of your application as you complete each area. So you'll notice a green check mark next to each item as it's completed. So if you don't have green check marks, once you're ready to submit your application and pay for it, you will not be able to move forward. Okay. You want to go back and see which item doesn't have a green check mark. They might have that red refused or in progress. Um, Everything needs to become done. Okay. So, final pro tip, if you run into a section of the application that doesn't apply to you, for example, out of network employment or lapse CCAP, but you know that you work in the network and you are not lapsed, they shouldn't pop up for you, but if they do and you can't move past it, just click save and continue. There's nothing to enter. It doesn't mean that you're out of the network or, you know, um, you're lapsed. It doesn't mean that. It's just a system glitch. Um, Nothing to do. The jump logic should be working, but for some reason, if it's not working, just click save and continue. So it looks like there's some more steps. All right. Okay. So again, finally, the process to renew, really, it just has a few steps. It seems a lot more complicated than it is, and I think once you get into the system, start adding the information, you're going to say, "Oh yeah, that's pretty easy." You complete that online application. You need to let us know your employment status and give the name of a reference, either the ED or the board chair. You'll have to complete 18 hours of continued learning. And you'll need to tell us how you have supported the CCAP program. Again, it's not a number of hours, it's just something that you've done to support the program. And then lastly, you pay that $250 fee. When all those tasks are completed, your CCAP will be renewed and you will be recognized at the annual convention as long as all those steps are done by June 30th. If after June 30th, um, you will receive your certificate more than likely in January. Okay. And I will mail your certificate to you. If you receive it in St. Louis, you'll pick it up at the CCAP booth, and I'll send more information when we get to that point. Really, that's all you need to do to renew your certification. Now that we've made it through the presentation, what other burning questions can I answer for you? Jessica's asking about the body of knowledge and if it's been updated since 2022. Good question. It has not been updated, so the body of knowledge that you've been using all along is the body of knowledge. If you need a copy of the body of knowledge, shoot me an email. I'm happy to send that to you because it is not on our website anymore. And if there are not any other questions, Um, thank you for attending the webinar. I appreciate you and your continued support of the CCAP program. My contact information is on the screen. Know you can call me, email me anytime. I will stick around to answer any questions that you have. But thank you, and I look forward to seeing you in St. Louis. Thanks, everyone.